Hello and welcome to the very first episode of This and That English podcast. My name is Alan and I am here to help you improve your English through listening. This podcast is especially for lower intermediate or intermediate learners of English, but of course everyone is welcome to listen as I talk about this and that. As I said in the introduction, this is my very first podcast. I actually thought I would publish this podcast in December, and it's now February. My plan was to publish my first podcast in January, but I thought if I have time, I'll just publish it when I'm ready. I don't have to wait for January. It wasn't a New Year's resolution. A New Year's resolution is a decision you make to do something new or to change something about your life starting from January 1st. Actually, I have never made a New Year's resolution, and I didn't want this podcast to be something like that. I didn't want it to be a New Year's resolution because many people's New Year's resolutions fail. Also, I don't think that we should wait until January 1st of a new year to do something that you want to do. In fact, I think that if you wait until January 1st, maybe it means you don't really want to do that thing that you have decided to do. So when I thought about things that I want to change about my life, I always thought, okay, I want to change it from now, not from later. But the fact is, I was very busy in December and even more so in January because I got a new job and the preparation it takes a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on the preparation and I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't be prepared enough, so maybe I spent a little bit too much time on the preparation. The result was I didn't start my podcast. Yesterday I went for a run. I like to go running, and actually yesterday was my first run of 2021, of the year 2021. That means I didn't go running in January at all, not one time. That's not really common for me. There have been times where I didn't go running for a month or so, but usually it was because I was sick. Maybe I caught a cold, or sometimes my back hurts, so I don't go running. But this January, the only excuse, and it was an excuse, the only excuse I had was that I was busy. But yesterday, I'm still busy. I have this job for another 5 weeks, maybe another 5 weeks, and I'm still preparing for it. But yesterday I decided I will go for a run, and I took my usual route. I went down by the beach. I love to run near the beach. I love to smell the ocean I love to taste the salt air on my lips. It's very nice. And actually, one other thing I love about running that course, running down by the beach, is that a lot of people know me. So I get waves and smiles from a lot of the local people. So that cheers me up. Not that I'm sad or anything, but it makes me feel happy. And anyway, yesterday when I was running, I was thinking about the podcast and about my Japanese study and about my English teaching. I teach English. And I realized that it's not the first time I realized it, but I really thought about it yesterday when I was running, that the most important thing when doing something new is starting. Of course, I'm not starting running. I've been running regularly for 8 or 9 years, maybe. But it was my first run this year, and it wasn't so easy to motivate myself to go out and run. But I did it, and then I felt good. And then I thought, yeah, maybe I should just do the podcast. just start it. It doesn't have to be perfect, as you noticed. This is not a perfect podcast, but if I start, I think I will get used to it, and then I will be able to do it more regularly. The same can be said for people who want to study English. The most important thing is to start. In Japan, many people have studied English since junior high school. Some people have studied since before that. So it's not a pure start, but like me, I feel I started my 2021 running yesterday. So if you want to get back into your English, now is the time to do it. Don't wait. Pull out your textbook, read a little bit, check something online, read that, listen to a podcast like this, study some vocabulary. Just start doing something. Find something that you enjoy and do that. So the most important thing is to start. So I have started my first podcast, and in this podcast I will talk about myself a little bit more. Usually somebody's first podcast, they introduce themselves, but today I was talking about running and a podcast. So maybe in the next episode I'll talk about myself a little bit, so you know who I am and why, maybe a little bit about why I am making this podcast. But in today's lesson, I just want to talk about the importance of starting. So, of course, if you don't start studying, if you don't start practicing English, you can't get better, really. Of course, there are many ways to start. You don't need to get out a textbook. You don't need to go to the English language school. You could simply watch Netflix or videos on YouTube, or read articles on the internet. Of course, watching Netflix and reading articles on the internet and watching YouTube videos can be daunting. Daunting means almost like scary. So if you watch the videos, watch movies or TV shows on Netflix, they are very difficult for most learners of English. But there are ways to listen to it. There are ways to watch it that makes it a little bit easier. So, for example, you can choose one of your favorite movies, an English language movie. If you're studying English, choose your favorite English language movie that you have seen before, either dubbed into Japanese or you have watched it with subtitles, and then you can watch it again. And even if you have the subtitles on, you can probably catch some words, so you can enjoy listening to the English. And then after you have seen the movie, you could watch it again the next time with English subtitles. And if there were some interesting phrases or vocabulary, then you could take a note of them, write them down. You can check them in your dictionary. And then finally, you could watch it several times like that, and then finally you could watch the movie without subtitles because you know the story, and then you won't be distracted by the subtitles. The subtitles is the text that runs underneath the picture on the TV, if you don't know. So if somebody speaks, for example, you're watching an English language movie, but you have Japanese subtitles, that means the Japanese text, the Japanese words will be at the bottom of the screen, so you can follow the story even if you don't understand the language. So you can switch off the subtitles after a while because you will know that movie or you will know that story, and then you'll get used to just listening to the English from your favorite movie, and you might be able to guess some of the words. When you're reading articles online, there are also ways to enjoy difficult articles. Of course, you can translate the whole page with Google Translate and then read through it, or there are extensions to your browser that you can use that you can look up certain words. Look up means check certain words, have them translated into your own language, or you can copy and paste some of the texts into Google Translate, for example. There are many ways to do it, and then you could have Google Translate read it to you. There are probably apps that will read the text from your browser. So anyway, this was my first podcast. As I said again, it's not so perfect, but I started. Thanks for listening. I will publish another podcast fairly soon. Now that I have started, I have a bit more confidence that I can do this. So please check back and listen to my next podcasts, and be sure to check my website. My website is www.thisandthatenglish.com. No spaces, no hyphens. thisandthatenglish.com. Was that too fast? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I will try to have some more useful podcasts in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to the very first episode of This and That English podcast. If you have any comments or feedback, if you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them. You can contact me on my website. It's thisandthatenglish.com. No spaces, no hyphens. thisandthatenglish.com, or on Twitter. My Twitter handle is thisandthateng. ENG is for English, because This and That English was too long for Twitter, so it became This and That Ing. This and That ENG. Anyway, I would love to hear from you. So thank you. See you next time.